Little update on the Land Cruiser here. We did some cosmetic things to it. Painted the grill. I think I mentioned in the previous video that we were going to do Wimbledon white from Duplicolor, and it turned out pretty great. It seems to be the right, as far as I can tell anyway, good off-white. Bought a bumper for, I don't know, like 70 bucks off eBay, which makes a huge difference compared to the old bent up one and the hoop that was on the front. Turns out well, you can hear it idling. I'll go ahead and turn it off, but really got it idling smoothly, which is makes me very happy. The slave cylinder that I talked about before, where I was going to try to use a different rod for the slave cylinder that I got from Napa, ended up not working anyway because the hydraulic line that goes in was too small for this one. So in other words, the slave cylinder's threads were too big, and I could have gotten an adapter, but at that point I was like, do you want an adapter and the wrong size rod in there whenever they're 20 bucks? So I looked at AutoZone, and they had them and could get one tomorrow morning, so I went ahead and ordered that. So I'm really hoping that tomorrow, once I get that slave cylinder in, that'll get us moving. I mentioned earlier the brakes, got all the hydraulic lines, well, it was only one of them, but got it replaced so I don't see any additional leaks. I did try to pump up the brakes a little bit, and obviously it has a bunch of air in it, and I went to bleed it, and the bleeder screws are rusted together, so I've been spraying those with PB Blaster, hoping that will free them up enough for me to bleed them. I may end up having to put vice grips on them and basically rip them out and then put new ones in there so I can bleed them regularly if needed. And I also started hearing a hissing from the brake booster, so I think that seal may have gone, so I may end up needing that, but we knew that things like that would pop up as we start driving it. But all four tires are holding air enough to at least drive it around here. We felt kind of silly doing the grill and this bumper whenever we can't even drive it, but we talked before about how when you're constantly working underneath a car and getting nasty and never really seeing progress, you kind of lose motivation. So whenever I'm working on projects like this, I try to balance the mechanical stuff with the cosmetics so that you can keep your motivation up and see progress, as well as you know, as you're making progress mechanically also. So that was a nice little project yesterday, and it was something for Amber to do. She was able to strip it down while I was working on the slave cylinder, and then we primed it and painted it last night. And installing that bumper, I had to cut all the bolts off, and I suspect everything's going to be like that on this thing, where whenever we take bolts off, it's going to be cutting. And luckily I didn't have to reuse these bolts, and the old bumper was trash anyway, so I could just go to town with my angle grinder. But there's going to be other things, I'm sure, that are tough to get off, and I can't just use the destructive mode like that. So a lot of great progress, running nice and smoothly now. Still want to rebuild the carburetor, but it's exceeded my expectations in terms of how it idles with that original carburetor and no rebuild. And really I didn't put a distributor cap on it or clean the points or anything. All the ignition is how it came, and probably has been sitting for years and years, other than that new coil. So great progress, and hopefully we'll start getting this painted too. That's the next cosmetic thing, is to sand this down and paint the frame. And then we're going to start taking a sander to the body and start seeing what we have underneath all this stuff. We feel like even a sanded down body with various colors is going to look better than what it is now with just, I don't know, nastiness, whatever that is. And I did order some seat covers for these. We may end up wanting to replace these down the road, but we thought, well, for the short term, a cheap set of waterproof covers for 20-25 bucks off of Amazon will be fine. These actually recline and slide, and other than cosmetically, they're pretty good seats, and that saves me the time of having to figure out the brackets and all that of replacement seats. So I think that was a good decision, just to get those to get us going, and it'll look decent. And then similar on the back, you can see these are terrible, and it's relatively expensive to replace the foam and the vinyl and everything, a few $100. And we do want to do that eventually once we get the body painted, but for now I started looking at these seats and I was like, oh, these are similar size to my golf cart seats, and I have some cheap covers on there from Amazon that are, I don't know, about 30 bucks per set, And you can see the seat that I took off, and they've done great on the golf cart. They've really held up well, and you can take them off and clean them, and exceeded my expectations there also. So I thought, hey, now that, since I have these sitting here, let's see how they fit. And it's not a perfect fit. It doesn't fit as well as a golf cart because the brackets kind of get in the way, but it's absolutely a big improvement over this over here. So I'll probably put the other one on there, and then having seat covers on the front, and then rhino line the floor, sand it down and rhino line it, and we'll have some decent interior just for cruising around until we kind of take this to the next level. And then of course we'll get better seats and covers and everything over that. But you know, next year or so that we have this thing, that'll do us just fine. We're also looking for some tires, trying to decide between 235 75 15s versus 30 950s, or maybe even 31 1050s. We decided to get something a little bit aggressive, like some mud terrains, but also don't want to spend a ton of money. Obviously, you could spend $1,000 on a set of 31-inch mud tires. Whenever we paid $1,500 for the Land Cruiser, that doesn't make sense. So we're trying to figure out, are there off-brands on eBay that we can get? There are 235s for $350, $340 that we could get. And I feel like the backs at 235 would look okay. Those are 225, so it would be a little bit bigger than that, which I think would look okay in the back. But in the front, the fender well is so big on these in the front, that might look too small still. So we're still trying to decide that, and we may end up coming across a good deal on used tires in the near future, and that might make our decision on the size. I'm not going to be real picky on that type of thing. And the last thing to mention that we've talked about are the hubcaps and the wheels. So from what I've read, the wheels originally were a gray color. I was thinking it would be a white color that matches the off-white grill and the roof cap for those that have it. But I think that was on the later ones. From what I've read, it's the earlier ones had the gray, and so we wanted to do something that looked original and then do the hubcaps also, but only 2 of our wheels have the hubcap clips. The other 2 on the other side do not have those. So we're trying to figure out, do we even just not even mess with it and just go with the gray, or do we try to find some tabs to weld on there, or some different wheels, or I don't know. That's nothing that we immediately need to deal with, but something we've been thinking about. One other thing to mention, I keep saying that, the hardtop that came with it, the guy, we didn't even know it came with a hardtop, but the guy, as we were leaving, he goes, oh yeah, I have all the side panels with good glass. And so we went back to yesterday to get that, and it's better shape than I thought. Not great, but all the glass is good, and the top itself is decent. Could be restored with not a whole lot of work, and it's probably better shape than the rest of the Land Cruiser, which isn't saying much. But not sure what we're going to do with it. Amber likes the hardtop look on these. I'm more of the opinion that this is a summer vehicle. We're not going to want to drive something that doesn't have power steering and can't really even put the kid seats in the back. So I'm like, why would we ever even drive it in the rain anyway? We only occasionally drive it, so you know, only drive it in the sunlight, daylight, sunny days. So I don't think we should even do a topper doors, similar to what my CJ5 is. She loves the look of with the top on, because she said that's kind of the look that makes those unique, with the hard top and those rounded windows and the white cap on top. The guy said that it had the white cap, but whenever it was being towed to his house, it blew off on the interstate, so we don't have that. So my plan was to take this and sell it and recoup a few $100 maybe towards the purchase of the car. She's wanting to find the cap and put the hardtop on, and I told her it's too heavy and difficult to be taking it on and off, so that basically means that she's not going to have a convertible. So we're battling that out, and we'll see who wins. That's pretty much it. Hopefully tomorrow we have this thing driving with the new slave cylinder. I'll give you guys an update then.